Our guest today is an NBA insider and senior writer for ESPN, a former college softball player at Stanford, a true West Coast badass, but most importantly, mommy to sweet Daniel, someone who I can always count on for a laugh, Ramona Shelburne. Thank you for being here, lady.
Yay! I love that. So yeah, no, his videos are pretty funny, right? Like,
oh, he's hilarious.
I know. He's already like when I put up a video. I mean, he makes me laugh all the time. I'm like, do I just think that because it's my kid? But I think other people think he's funny too. You know?
No, he's funny. You have permission to think he's funny.
Okay.
And remember to watch the video version of this podcast and see Ramona's smiling face. Please visit neverloseyourcape.com. Thank you, Ramona, for being here today. As always, we like to start each episode in true basketball fashion with our warm-up segment. So here's some rapid-fire questions. You get 2 from me and then 1 from my producer, Serafina. First, what are you binge watching right now?
My husband and I are binging Cobra Kai. We've saved the last episode for date night on Saturday night. It's only a half-hour show though, so we watch like 2 or 3 at a time. And we gotta save it. We gotta save it because it's gonna be gone. And myself, when I am binge watching, the last 2 shows that I binged. Okay, this is so random. I'm almost done with The Flight Attendant. I was watching that. And then the other one I was binge watching. You can't believe this. It's called Borgen. And it's a
what app?
Okay, it's on Netflix, and it is a Danish political show. It's kind of like West Wing in Denmark. Okay,
nice.
It's so good, and it's dubbed in English, okay, and there's subtitles. And it just came. It actually came out like a long time ago. So I binge watched like literally 3 seasons of this, 10 episodes each. And if you're a Game of Thrones fan, you will be very excited because several of the key actors in Borgen are in Game of Thrones, so you'll recognize them. You'll be like, "Oh,
that's interesting."
Okay, but anyway, I love political shows, and so it was. I learned all about the parliamentary system. I loved all the politics. The lead character is the Prime Minister of Denmark, and she's like, working mom juggling family and home responsibilities. So that was like fun to kind of watch that. But the Danish attitudes towards that was cool. I liked it. Yeah.
Hey, you sold me.
Yeah.
Next question. What is the best thing about quarantine 2020?
I would say the best thing about quarantine is just getting to spend more time with my kids. Like Daniel is, if I was working like I normally would covering the NBA, I would be like gone all the time. I would be at games. I'd be traveling during the playoffs. I'd be gone for, I would always try to fly home on days off and stuff. But he's like not the type I would take with me on the road. It would be, I could, but I just can't imagine him sitting still ever. So like,
I was telling Serafina, my producer, that you and I could trade war stories about places that we've pumped. But my first, I took him everywhere. Yeah. My middle one, she's like Daniel. I took her and then really quickly learned like, oh, she doesn't stay still.
Well, and the thing about pumping, like the pump stories, like I feel like we could play a game of Never Have I Ever. Pumped in a, like that's literally what it was like.
Finals in the bathroom at the NBA finals in the arena. This is the year that the AC went out in San Antonio.
Yeah.
And I remember I had handed him back to my husband, and there was like a baby sweat mark on my t-shirt, and I was like, gosh, I must just be like really hot this time. And then I came out and everyone was like, oh my gosh, the AC broke, like it's 90 degrees. It was, that's one of my memories. And that was before those not that my kids are super old, but that was before those pods at the airport.
Those pods are money. Me and the pod at the Oakland airport, because I was always covering the Warriors, so that one we had a relationship, me and that pod. You know what the best one was too? The Warriors had a pod at their practice facility because they're like a super enlightened organization. So they had like I mean, I was like, this is the best pod. They had like snacks in there. They had like wipes. They had all this like relaxing music. I was like, like this is
Sign
nice.
me up for that. Way to go, Warriors. A+ for you guys. Yeah. Oh yeah. Serafina,
Anyway.
I derailed your question. Go ahead.
No, this is great. I'm just taking a lot of notes over here. You know, I just got to prepare. So my question for you, you know, going back to your softball career, coming out of high school, was, you know, was Stanford your first choice, or like, did you have like a dream school that you wanted to go to?
You know what? No. My parents both went to UCLA, and so I grew up wanting to go to UCLA just because, you know, it's your parents. I took a class there during summer, like a summer school class there once while I was in high school, and I just didn't like it. I just went there and I was like, you know what? I think if I go to UCLA, I'm going to end up staying at home and fighting traffic on the 405 every day, and I'm not going to have that college experience like I like. And I was like, no, I need to be a little bit away. Like, even though I love my parents and I really had a hard time leaving, but so that kind of like soured me on going to UCLA, and then softball wise, I was recruited by a couple of schools. So it was like Michigan was up there, Harvard and Yale and Cal, and then Stanford. So it was like those 5 schools. Michigan, went on a recruiting trip there. It was dope. I loved it. I was like, this is a great school, and it was fun. And but when I was there, they were like, you know what, we really like you, but there was another girl who we were recruiting like several people at your position. Like they recruited me like as a utility, right? And she was here last week on her visit, and she accepted our scholarship. So we don't have it for you. And I was like, ooh, okay. Well, thank you for the trip. Like, that was fun. And I appreciate your honesty, and thank you for not canceling on me, because that would have been weird, but also like, so that was out. And then Harvard and Yale, I really liked. I didn't like Harvard's Yale as much. I liked Harvard a lot, and I really wanted to go there. And I went to Cal. It was like I kind of recruited myself to Cal. Like, they didn't really want me. I kind of like, I kept calling them, and I was like, really, I really want to go here. Like, you know, could you? Like, I really did think I really liked Cal a lot, and it was almost like I was like twisting their arm. Like, they would see, you know, they're like, okay, well, if you want to come and walk on, you can. And I was like, I mean, and I do kind of want you to want me too, right? So, okay. So it was really down to Stanford or Harvard. And I'm going to be real about it. I didn't really like Stanford at first. I thought it was like a big country club. And when I went on my trip, like, I had a decent time, but I kind of just, I like being in a city. And I loved Harvard, and I loved that like atmosphere there. And I loved the coach there. I loved all the girls on the team, and I really wanted to do it. And I just couldn't get myself to like move across the country. I was like, that was the school I wanted to go to. And I had this thought, like, if I go, I'm only going to come home twice a year. And what if I meet a guy out there and I end up living my life in Boston or in the East Coast? And, you know, it's just like life has a way of, you know, taking you places. And if you make one choice, it's going to lead to other things. Right. And I'm just really close to my parents, and really close to my family.
For an 18-year-old to move across the country.
Yeah, to move across the country. And also, like, you also know kind of what that means, because, like, you know, you're going to meet people, you're going to have friends there. Most people are going to be East Coast, right? And you know, I actually went to Stanford with like quite a few trepidations, you know, like quite a few misgivings about moving there and going there. It wasn't like really my top choice. But once I was there, the first year, I was still super homesick. I mean, I remember coming home for Thanksgiving, and I was like so unsettled about going back. Like, my mom was like driving me to the airport, and I had to pull over and throw up on the side of the road. I was just like, oh, you know, because like, it was just so homesick already, you know, just being like that far away. I'd never been away, but I think deep down I knew that I needed to go away for college. Otherwise, I wasn't going to grow up. I wasn't going to like be, you know, able to stand on my own 2 feet and have a little separation. So it was the right decision. And then, like, now looking back on it, I was like, oh my God, that was totally the right decision. Thank you. I'm really glad I did that, you know, because I love Stanford. I totally loved it. I loved that it was like country club. I would go hiking in the foothills all the time. I drove to Santa Cruz. Like, I didn't need to be in the city. I was plenty busy. I had softball, I had school, I have friends. I rode my bike everywhere. It's like beautiful. It's sunny and
It's
warm.
not like you were at Vermont, you know.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I would have been, and you think I was homesick at Stanford. Oh my God. Can you imagine if I would have gone to Harvard?
yeah,
I'd have been all the way in Boston and I can't home. Yeah,
You've done
totally
very well
right
for
choice.
yourself.
Yeah, it worked out. Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
And then I moved home and I lived at home with my parents for a couple of years, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. and everybody was like, "But you went to Stanford," and I was like, "Yeah, but I just still don't know what I want to do." And they were, and I think it was funny at that point because I was like a kind of like everybody. I was, student body president. I was good at softball, whatever. So like all my family, like they used to treat me like a big shot at the time. But then when I went to Stanford and I came home and I had no plan, right? Like I totally, they totally like kind of were disappointed for a while. And I was like you could tell, like my, it was all my Jewish family and I was supposed to be like the big, mocker, right? Like, and that's a Yiddish word for like big mover and shaker, right? It's supposed to be a big mogul. And I totally was like this big disappointment for several years because I didn't know what I wanted to do. Kind of like I had been on this like school and softball track for so many years that I knew I needed to figure out who I was beyond being a student and an athlete. And I've been on such a schedule and so regimented that like I was like, ooh, that whole thing about knowing what you want to do after college, like I wasn't sure. I took my time and I took a couple of weird jobs and ended up working at the Daily News, which was my hometown paper, and I was like covering my old high school, and they were like, "Didn't you go to Stanford?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like they're like, "Well, what are you doing covering your old high school softball team?" I was like, "Yeah, totally depressing." Yeah, I was like, really.
But like you're covering your old softball team. For someone that didn't know what they wanted to do getting out of Stanford to where you are now is almost unfreaking believable.
Yeah, I mean, it was weird. It took me a long time to make it. Like people think that like I do classes all the time, like journalism classes, and they all go like, "Oh, how do we have your job?" And I was like, "I don't know, man." The truth is when I came out, it was like a totally different scene. You used to cover high schools first, and then you would go cover local colleges, then you would work your way up to like maybe a pro beat. Now people come right out and they go straight into covering the NBA at 22, and they haven't made their mistakes yet. They haven't like learned stuff yet. And I mean, I was at the Daily News for like 7 years, making $35,000 a year, living at home with my parents mostly, driving my mom's old car, and like I mean, it was kind of depressing for a lot of times. I was like, when am I going to make it? Like, when am I going to get that break? And if anything, I was going backwards because the industry was so bad. Like, somebody would leave a job and they just wouldn't even fill it. And like, they would just be like, sorry, we're not going to. So I graduated 2001. So and then I was at the Daily News starting about 2002. And I was there till 2009 when I got hired at ESPN. And what happened, I was like going to leave the business. Like I was coming up on 30. I was still covering I was like the local columnist, and I decided to get an internship at KNBC, which is the local affiliate out here, and NBC affiliate. And I was like literally an intern. I had to take a work experience class at a junior college just to work for free. Right. And I mean, it was like really humbling. I was like 26. I'd already been in the business for a while. I wasn't really getting anywhere. I said, I got to try something else. Like maybe I'll get into TV or something. I mean, I would do public access TV. I would always do LAPC or no, not LAPC. What's the name of it? It's the LA Public Access Station out here. I can't remember what it's called. And I would call like high school volleyball games, and I would get paid like $25 gas money, and they were like, but we're gonna get some sandwiches. And I was like, okay, cool, let's do it, right? So I went out and I did all that stuff, and it was just like super humbling, right? Like I didn't, I'm covering high school volleyball and football and keeping my own stats on the sidelines, and my area for high school football was Antelope Valley. So I was always driving up to Palmdale, freezing in the winter, right? And hopping fences and, trying to file for the fax machine in the coach's office, and little 5'2" me trying to keep stats on the sideline. That was, I mean, if you had a video, it'd be funny, because all I was doing was like trying to like see what yard line they were on in and around the tall offensive lineman or whoever was on the sidelines, right? So that was like most of my 20s, and I was kind of like losing hope that I was going to make it, and I kind of set 30 as a time of like, okay, if I don't make it by 30, I'm going to do something else. I'm going to like go to law school, or I'll go be a consultant someplace. I'll do something totally different, because like I just can't keep doing this and not making very much, not really making any money, not being like professional. Plus, we were just having layoffs after layoffs after layoffs, and it was just like a matter of time. Like at one point, you were going to get caught, and I got kind of a break finally about 2008. I remember that we had a layoff, and I was the local columnist, and they'd been kind of letting me go to some Laker practices like backup. And I was just, when the regular guy needed a day off, I would go. And he liked me because I would like transcribe all the quotes and I'd send it to him. And I was like very helpful to the beat writer. His name was Elliot Tieford, and we were like buddies. And so he would always ask for me, and that helped out a lot. And then we had a layoff, and they laid off our lead columnist, and it really sucked, because he was like a good friend of mine, and he was like a legend at the paper. But I don't know why they laid him off. Probably made too much money. And my editor called me, and he was like, "Hey, I have good news and bad news." And he told me about the layoff, and then he goes, "But you're going to be our new columnist." And I was like, "Oh, I mean, that was horrible. Like, I'm processing my friend getting laid off, but also like I finally got a big break." And a little while later, I kind of took over for him, and that's how it went.
I remember because I started at ESPN in 2008, yeah. So I remember when you came on to ESPN. Yeah. What made you, though? You said you almost wanted to quit, and then you didn't. What made you want to keep going?
It was filling the bureau, like an essay about this was my dream to do this, and and I sent clips and stuff like that. Her name is Rachel Wilner. She's up in she's John Wilner's wife. She was up in the Bay Area. John's covered Bay Area sports forever, and she picked me. Like, she picked me to be part of that bureau in Beijing. And so I passed on the job at NBC. I was like, I can't turn it down. This is like my dream job. This is going to open up so many things. I mean, not job, but like assignment. And I was like, this is really going to open things up for me. Like, it's going to be such a great experience. Plus, like, I really wanted to cover the Olympics. And I said no to NBC. And then, like, I don't know how many months later it was, I got a call from her, and she goes, "I want to call you first before you hear it later, but I'm really sorry. We decided, due to budget cuts, we're not going to do the bureau." And I was like, "Oh, okay. So sad now," right? Because I just she didn't know the whole backstory, but I didn't get to go. But I had already been planning to go, right? Like, my friend, my buddies that I played softball with, they were all on the U.S. team, right? So Jessica Mendoza, right. Stacey Newman, then Tasha Watley, like Tariah Flowers. I mean, they were all there. I think she was Tariah Mims at the time, by the way, because your producer knows her husband.
Yeah.
But like, everybody I had played with was on the U.S. softball team, and I mean, I'm not saying I was as good as them, but we were friends, and I was like super stoked to be going to Beijing, dream assignment. And I was like, well, can I just use my credential and just like, I'll fly myself there, and then I'll file stories for you guys, and I'll make up the money that I'd be using on the travel, I'll make it up by freelancing. Can I just use the credential though? And at first they said yes, and then they turned around and said, no, we can't even use the credential because our insurance can't cover you, even because you're on our credential. And I was like, oh man, you're killing me right now. Like, you got nothing. Like, it's just.
It would be hard not to give up after that.
Yeah, and so I just went on my own. I just went. I was like, you know what? Forget that. I really want to go. I have this Olympic dream. Okay, I don't get to play in the Olympics, but I'm gonna go. And my friend and I had already planned to go, and we'd already gotten the process going with our visas, and we had already talked about dates, and we are going to go see, while we were there, we are going to go to see the Terracotta Warriors and yada yada. So we just went, and it was actually like better because we were just total like USA fans, and we didn't have to go. I didn't have to work, so I just went to games, and I was like Team USA, and I went to all the softball games, and my friends could get me tickets to those because they had friends and family tickets. So we went to all their games, and we got like, it was hard to get tickets all over the place because it was everybody in China wanted them too. But I got to go to like one or two track and field things. I got to do a bunch of other, I think we went out and actually made a friend out there riding on a bus to go see the canoe kayak thing. And he's still my friend to this day because the bus ride was like an hour and a half out there, and we all sat next to each other. So I just had a great time, and it was like very empowering just to like, you know what, forget it. Like, I'm doing this. I have an Olympic dream, and I'm going to make it happen myself. I don't need someone to send me, and it was very good. And then when I came back, that was 2008. I got engaged right after that. That was when my husband popped the question. It was exciting. It was soon after that is when I got to be the columnist at the Daily News. I remember it was like that fall. So it was like things kind of picked up. And I think there's part of me that thinks like when you make a decision where you sort of bet on yourself, or you just like do something for yourself, you put good things out into the universe, like I just think they come back at you in ways that you can't predict. And so just like the way that I knew that I needed to go to the Olympics, like that just really like invigorated me and gave me, it was like empowering to go on my own too, to just be like, not let whatever's going on in the industry affect what happens with me. And
yeah, because at that time I remember we used to use a lot of writers and columnists from, we didn't have like for our listeners out there wasn't like 8 NFL ESPN reporters. We used all local people that covered each team, and I remember the newspaper sports industry basically crashing. I remember all those people losing their jobs, and it was a scary time.
So and then 2008. So I was like the lead columnist all of 2000, the rest of 2008 when I got home, and then also most of 2009. And I remember like, it was like a good thing, but I also had like major imposter syndrome because here I am, like I've really just kind of covered local colleges and stuff, but and now I'm the lead columnist. I just like totally jumped everybody. You're supposed to have to go through this rise up the ranks. You do this college beat, a pro beat, this and that, and then you become a columnist when you're old and wise, right? Not when I was 29 at the time, and it was. But it was, I remember Elliot Tiefer told me, he's, my friend who was the Laker beat writer. And I remember saying to him, I'm like, God, I just feel like everyone's looking at me like, wait, you're the columnist? And he's like, look, don't worry about that. He goes, look, there's a pool over there. Just jump in and swim. And I was like, okay, like, cool. I just basically leapfrogged his job even, like I went from being, struggling prep sports local columnist to like lead columnist for the Daily News, like overnight. And it took me a minute, but one of the things that I did, and this ended up being like really beneficial at the time, was because I had that not taking myself seriously vibe about me, and I was like trying to rise to the occasion and trying to rise to a job that I didn't think I was qualified for. I set meetings with like all the people in town, like all the GMs and all the executives for the local teams in town. And I mean, it's so quaint when I think back on this. Like, I can't believe I did that, but it was like very, I don't know. I think they must have been charmed by it. But like, I called up like Ned Coletti, and he was the GM of the Dodgers, and I was like, hey, I'm going to be taking over as the lead columnist, and I know we don't know each other too well, but I really believe it's important if I'm going to be writing about you guys that we know each other. And I've seen you and you've seen me, and like, we talk about whatever's going on with the Dodgers and, whatever. And he sat down and he was like, okay, and at first he was like, when we first sat down, it was like a little gruff at first. Like, I don't have time for this shit. But the more we started talking, the more he opened up, and the more we really connected. And then I did that with like other teams, around too with the Lakers and other coaches.
Is that how you met Jeannie?
No, actually, I met Jeannie a little bit later.
Okay.
That was when I got to ESPN. But I like Mitch Kupchak and Phil and things like that, because I think I was like intimidated at first, and so like that's why it was really cool when I first started, because like that's how I got to know a lot of people. That's how I got to bond with people personally, and not just like have people's cell phones or whatever it is. Like you need to have real relationships, and I think it was just like an instinctual thing for me as a journalist to say like I need them to know. I need to know you, and you need to know me. And when you have that face to face with somebody, and like I'm a real person, and not just a byline, and you're a real person, and not just some GM that we're questioning your take on things or whatever it is. Like I don't know, it was really good, and that's how you get deep reporting. That's how you get good features and color on your story. And I like it was just an instinct that I had, and it was partially from me being an athlete myself over the years, and like I know that how people get it twisted. I know how it feels when somebody burns you. And I always said to people, I was like, look, you may not like everything I write, but I will always give you a chance to weigh in and tell me your side of the story. And I thought that was I think people just like appreciate that. I don't know. It was weird. It was like,
did you feel like people like it was hard to navigate in this field? One, because you were new. Two, because you were young. And three, because you were a female. Did you ever feel?
Especially when it came to baseball. Baseball was the worst. I'm gonna be real with you on this one, okay? Like, I mean, I've been in tears in the dugout because when I would cover the Dodgers, I was out there. Sometimes I'd go to spring training or was at games, and they were, the reporters there not very welcoming, not cool. And it was there were some comments made. I don't want to name names or anything, but the some reporters were there, and it was like they made a couple comments sometimes like that made me feel like it just kind of like the whole thing with my like the imposter syndrome anyway, just kind of like that, and it was really like it shook me, right? And I remember I was at a playoff game, and then I heard them snickering. Like he said, like one guy said something to me, and our columnist, the other guy who was there, he was a news columnist, but I heard them laughing as I got up, and I was like, I don't know, it just kind of shook me because I didn't have a lot of confidence back then. I was already feeling like I didn't belong, I didn't deserve this job yet. I wasn't qualified. So like when you say something like that to me, it was gonna hit me hard. And I'd been nothing but nice to them, but I guess it didn't matter. And they I remember I'll still to this day, like I went in the closet. The guy, the guy who's at the front of the media room, he saw me crying. He was like, "Hey, you want to come in here?" And I was like, "Yeah, thank you." And I just went in the closet, like he worked at the dugout attendant, And I still this day, like he and I always look at each other like, "Hey, thanks for that, man. Like that's cool." But let me be real about this one. All right.
Sure.
So with baseball, and I always remember the way they kind of treated me. Like I try to go out of my way to not be like that to other people, especially when they're first getting started. But for a while afterwards, I tried to stick it to them. Like every time I was covering the NBA, I wasn't even doing baseball, and this is when I was at ESPN now. But I had really good relationships with the Dodgers, all up and down the organization, all through. And every time I got a chance to break some news, I'd do it. And it wasn't even my beat. And I remember like one of my colleagues was like, "Ramona, what are you doing? Why are you breaking Clayton Kershaw's contract? You don't cover baseball." I was like, "Because I can." And you know what? Those guys were mean to me, and I'd be pissed because they were mean to me. So it made me feel real good.
But you're like, so now you're in a closet. So obviously you're the Ramona badass that we all know now. Super successful, like amazing reporter, amazing friend, amazing mom. But you're in that media closet crying.
Yeah.
How did you pull yourself out of that and continue? Like what was your process?
Yeah.
What would you tell someone? What would you tell yourself? What would the 2021 Ramona tell herself to the Ramona that's in the closet crying? Like, what would you say?
At that point, I mean, I definitely called my husband, and I was crying to him. And I had a story to do. I had a deadline. So you know what I did? I just went over there. I picked up my laptop because my laptop was sitting right next to the two guys that I was, who were snickering and laughing at me and being shitheads to me. And I went and brought it in the other room, and they tried to say something to me, and I didn't talk to them. And I just went in the other room, and I had a deadline, and I just said, okay, I just got to get it done. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I knew, Lise, like I knew that they were being shitty to me because they probably saw what I saw, which was that I had kind of jumped the process. Like I had kind of leapfrogged this step. And I don't know if they were just trying to knock me down a peg or if they were just whatever. But what would I say to myself back then? Like, I knew that. I just didn't have the same confidence in myself. And now I have much more confidence in myself as a writer because, when you have a track record, like it's like muscle memory, like it's the same way as an athlete, you're going to make that free throw because you've shot, a million of them, you're going to be able to, get the bunt down because you've practiced that, you're going to be able to, hit that curveball or whatever, because you've done that. It's kind of with writing. Like I just didn't have enough experience and enough wins yet. I didn't have enough like muscle memory doing that. And so I would have probably just said like why they're acting like that, and that you're as good, and you're gonna go show them, and you're going, and I don't know. I think that it was a combination of I needed to have a little poor Ramona moment. I needed to have get it out, but I also needed to have a little swag about me, which I still have. Like I'm gonna show and like I don't know, maybe that's not healthy. It's a little bit, get a little angry,
It sounds good to me. No, it sounds like you used the adversity, and that's what drove you to succeed. Did you ever in that moment of where you felt your lowest, did you ever say like, maybe I should quit? Maybe this isn't for me.
Oh yeah. I mean, because the thing about writing is that it's hard. No matter how much you write, it is hard. And there's so many moments as a writer where you like have no confidence, and you're losing yourself, and you're like, I suck. Oh, I can't do this, especially on deadline. And you really, and it's, my mom was she wrote a little bit when she got older. She wrote for cartoons actually, and she did all kinds of writing. Like it was just a second job for her, and one of them she wrote like technical writing, like writing business manuals and things like that. And she was just like, look, one of the things I learned as a writer is like you got to be able to write with a gun to your head. You can't always be like super swag and like feeling it, creative, whatever. Like sometimes when you're really stuck in it and you're putting so much pressure on yourself and you're trying to make it too perfect and too great, sometimes you just need to be like blah 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 blah, just compartmentalize, just take the pressure off. And one of my prompts that I usually do for myself when I'm sucking as a writer and I'm judging myself and I'm judging the story and I, whatever it is I do a prompt like I go, this is a story about, and I just start free writing. It just like almost like you're writing in your journal, and but about the story. And when you write without judgment and when you write without judging yourself, it really helps. And I can't tell you how often I go back to those free writing sessions and I pull whole paragraphs out of those and I put them in the real story. Like it's not shaped like I would a real story, but it really helps. And I think now I have more confidence because I've done a lot of writing. I've done a lot of stories. I know that I know what I'm doing as a writer. But like, there's a lot of times where like, back in the day, I didn't have that. Like I knew I was a good writer, but I also like there were other people that I thought were better, way better than me. I thought they were like faster, cleaner, and they gave the editor seemed to like them better than they liked me. Like a lot of people always thought I took too long to get to the point, or I was too this, too that, too emotional, too out of just get cleaner and crisper. And a lot of newspaper writing is much more like quick 3-paragraph leads, and I'm a little more scenic and stylistic and character driven, and like I used to judge myself like, oh man, just get to the point, Ramona, but when you've had enough, like now I know I'm a little bit more able to shift gears, and I'm able to do what the situation calls for. Like I'll give you an example. The other night I was writing, as you can tell from me doing this Zoom, I'm laying in bed right now because I have a jacked up back right now, and I'm scheduling surgeries, and I either have to stand or lay down. I can't sit. And my standing time is like, there's a clock, there's like, again, you got about 2-3 hours that you can stand every day. So you better make it worth it. So if I'm going to do a Zoom, if I have back-to-back Zooms, I'm going to lay down for one of them. Right. And
We'll take it.
yeah. And I was writing this story. It was on Kobe, and Kobe's a guy that I was really close to, and it's the anniversary of his death's coming up, and I did this interview with Pau Gasol, so I wanted to, do a good job with this story. And I didn't have it. I was like, that night, I couldn't stand. If I stood, my leg was going dead because I have a herniated disc, so it's really bad sciatica, and I'm worried about nerve damage and all this stuff. So then I was laying down trying to write, and then I think by like tilting my neck and stuff, I was hurting too, because that makes the spinal cord go up over the disc. And it's been like 6 months like this, so it's pretty humbling, right? And a lot of pain, and it's you feel sorry for yourself, you feel sad. I can't take care of my son the way I need to. It's really depressing. And then, but at least I could still write. It would take me a little bit longer, but I could still write. And then even that night, I just couldn't. And I called my mom, and she's like, look, you just got to get something down. Like, don't worry about it being good. Just write. Like, like somebody's, like it's like technical writing or this or that. And I go, yeah, but this is about Kobe. Like, I got to do a good job for him, and I got to honor him. And she was like, he knows. He's like, he understands.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you're right. He does. He so the truth is, like, if we were in a regular NBA season, I would probably go on disability. Like, I mean, I can't sit, I can't drive, I can't travel. It takes me forever to write. There's no way I wouldn't be able to do my job. The only reason with quarantine I can is because I can just be at home and not have to go anywhere. I can do everything over the phone and all that. And I got, I just kind of like, I always used to have this like faith in myself, like, okay, when I get really tired or really whatever, like, I'm gonna pull it off. I can always pull it off. And like sometimes you just can't. And
it's
that's
your superhero cape.
Yeah.
That's why this is called Never Lose Your Cape. And the point of Never Lose Your Cape means you wear it when you have to, but it means you don't have to be strong every minute of the day. You can lean on the other people to carry your cape for you.
Yeah, and sometimes you just give it to God too. Like, you just let it go. You just say, like, it's okay. Like, I can, like, for me, honestly, I get emotional thinking about this because it's been a long time. But like, it's kind of like my self-concept is that I can always pull it off. That I can always, like, no matter how tired I am, I can rally. I can stay. I used to like go to hotels when I would be writing my long form stories where I need to like connect to them and stuff. And I would go for like 3 days at a time. And I would just work for like 72 straight hours. I'll just go. And, I'm pumping out 6,000 word stories, and they need to be good. They need to build. And there's, it's like, that's it, that I've been working on for months. So this is, you just need like total concentration, which is why I go to a hotel. And I'd be so tired and like delirious and stuff, but I would like get it done. And then when you get it done, you like love the feeling. It's such a rush that like you persevere through all that and you pushed yourself and but I can't do that right now. One, I can't do that since I have a kid. I can't leave for 3 nights to go write. You gotta get it done when you get it done. And two, like, I can't push right now. And you have to like it was something Kobe used to do all the time. Like, that's, he and I talked about this a lot. Like, when he hurt his Achilles, I mean, he had this idea like he could outwill and outwork and everyone, and that nothing was too big of a challenge. And then all of a sudden his body broke. Like, his Achilles popped, and it was just like very shattering. Like, you just fell apart because your whole concept of like, I can outthink and outsmart and outwork and out persevere, and I'm going to try harder than everyone else. It wasn't enough.
You realize at the end of the day, it really is in God's hands. Is that sometimes you have to let go and give it to God. And
yeah, you have to. And I have a great support system with my husband, mom, my dad, my friends, all that. I mean, I break down crying all the time these days because it's so demoralizing. Like when I'm feeling pretty good, like today I was feeling pretty good. Um, I'm like, you know, I can function. I'm good. I'm happy and whatever. And there's other days where like that pain level, when it gets up six, like scale, they always go scale of 1 to 10. It's like it's a 10, or people say it's 10. It's not 10. You're like 10, you would be, you would be like out. But like, when it gets up 6 or 7 and it's burning and nothing's working and you're just like, I can't chill it out, I can't calm it down. You get that panic thing going, and then the pain gets higher, and you just kind of like, it makes it worse, I think. And I was telling my mom the other day, I go, this back thing, man, I tried everything, man. I tried injections, I tried PT, I've lost 30 pounds. That's a big deal. And nothing worked. If anything, it got worse. Like I tried everything. And there's a part, you go back to what I coulda, shouldas, and I'm beating myself up for letting myself get overweight after the baby, and all those years of sitting and flying and not taking care of myself, not sleeping enough, all that. But it's like, the truth is, was done is done, and now it's about moving forward. And like that's actually something Kobe told me when he did his Achilles. He's like, I cried, I wrote a big long Facebook post that night, I got it all out, and then I scheduled surgery for 6 in the morning. Like, just move forward, be productive, research, do your thing, and get it done. And when I was saying to my mom the other day, I go, I reminded me of childbirth, right? Like I had Daniel, I had a really bad complication with pregnancy where it was like I had a fibroid that grew, which is a very common thing, but it grew so big that it kind of like died on itself. Like it got to be like another baby. Like it was like huge. And it's just the pregnancy hormones. Some people, it makes them grow. And it was so painful. It was like, and it was so scary because I thought I was going to miscarry. I was just like, what's going on every time? I mean, I knew it. After a while, I knew what it was, but I was scared all the time. From about 26 weeks on, I was almost on bed rest. And when I did go places, it was just painful. Everything sucked, and you don't want to take anything because you're pregnant, right?
Yep.
And so it's like I got through that, but eventually it kind of died on the inside. Like, so the fibroid was still there, but it was just not as painful anymore. Anyway, when it got to labor, I thought I was really determined to have the baby naturally. I was like, no C-section, no inducing, nothing. And I had all these fears of, Steve Kerr and I are pretty close, and I did all these stories on him and his spinal fluid leak, and I was really nervous about that. And it was, he was like, don't get an epidural. That's how people get those. And so I was just trying to avoid it as much as possible. And, we're in labor, and they're all like, man, you've been at it for a while. You're still not ready. And they were like, they really wanted to induce me. And I was like, no, I'm not letting you induce me. And finally, after 24 hours, they were like, we have to induce you. It's going to be bad on the baby. I was like, okay. They did that. I had to get an epidural at that point, which was terrifying, but I just had to do it. And then still 40 hours later, now it's like 40 hours in, and they were like, we got to get the baby out. He's starting to show signs of struggle, and you got to get him out. We got to do a C-section. And I just broke down. I was like, okay, do it. Like, I mean, I don't want anything to happen to the baby, but I was so scared. And I don't remember this, Lise. It was crazy. Like, I said to my mom, like, if I die, take care of the baby. Like, I don't even remember saying that. But I was just so broken and scared. I was exhausted. I was afraid to, like, they give you the epidural. When they give you the epidural, everyone's like, oh, just go to sleep. I was like, I can't sleep. I can't sleep.
Yeah. I had 3 epidurals. There was no sleeping for me either.
No, I was like, I'm not gonna sleep. I'm too scared to sleep. I'm wired. Like I don't want to. But like I had the C-section. It was just like, okay, I ended up literally with my worst nightmare, right? Like, instead of all this avoiding of it, and I ended up right where I didn't want to be. But you know what? Like, the baby was fine. I was fine. It was a longer recovery. I think because I went through all of it, I was at peace with the fact that I ended up there, because I knew I tried. I gave every last bit. I tried, and I had to do the right thing. And every time I look back on it, like instead of being upset about it, I actually just feel grateful because, like 100 years ago, I would have died.
Oh yeah.
A baby would have died.
I think about that all the time too. I had to be my
Yeah,
first two babies. I was 2 days late, but my
yeah,
third baby, who was my miracle baby to begin with,
yeah,
they found something wrong with him late in the game, and they were like, "You have to be induced." And it was the same thing. I was like, "No,
yeah,
he's not ready. He's not ready."
yeah,
And you know, the best way I can explain it to people is like you're holding your heart in your hand. That's
yeah,
what it feels like, is that, you know, this is something that we worked so hard for, and I was so scared that
yeah,
whole, because this was after
yeah.
2 years of them telling me you're not going to have a baby.
Right.
And then the whole pregnancy saying we don't know if you're going
Yeah.
to keep it. And then until he
Wow.
was like in my arms breathing,
Yeah.
even when he came out, I was like, is he
Yeah.
okay? He's not making noise, and that's a really scary thing. But I think it goes back to like what you said with Kobe, is that
Yeah.
sometimes, is it like you do the best you can, and
Yeah.
sometimes your body is going to do what it needs to do
Yeah.
at that time, and then we have to figure out how to persevere through it.
Yeah. And like to me, like getting through like a long term of pain, like it's been, it's really been 9 months of this with the back. And, pregnancy obviously was hard for me on so many levels, but like I think you just do it one day at a time. Like you literally just kind of put your head down and you have to kind of like, you know, okay, it's just like this, and you just kind of set aside all your stuff and judgments and all that, and you just kind of put your head down. If you would have told me like this back thing would get this bad for this long, I would not have believed you at the beginning. I would have been like, no way.
Mm.
Like if I would have known this is how it would turn out, I would end up in a back surgery. I never thought I was going to end up in back surgery. I thought I was going to do PT and have an epidural and be all right.
Mm.
And nope, I'm going to have a surgery. It's like, and it's like I feel like there's a part of me that feels like I failed. I feel a little defeated. I'm scared about what it means for the rest of my life. Like I feel shame about why I let it get there in the first place. Because of course, we always blame ourselves, right? Like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
why did I let myself get fat? Like, oh, I knew I should have done that. Like, why did I not do more, exercise or all, our jobs are travel and crazy and all that. And like, we'd always go to those ESPNW summits, Lise, and like
Mm-hmm.
they would have those workouts in the morning. I'm like, shit, I'm sleeping in. Who gets up and does that?
Well, and that's like the epitome of like what you're supposed to do, right? You do a
Right.
little movement, then you sit, then you do some more movement, then you sit. But real life isn't like that, especially
Oh,
when you're covering sports on the road. You're
yeah,
in and out of planes, you're in and out of media rooms, locker rooms. Basically, the
yeah,
whole job is designed to be
yeah,
sitting.
yeah,
But when you're in it, when you're in that place in your head where you're like, I should have done this, I should have done this, this is
yeah.
my fault. Like, how do you snap yourself out of it? What
You
would
know
you
what I
tell
do?
someone that's in it like that?
When I'm in it, like I kind of put it in a box. So I visualize this box and all the shame and regret and all that. Like you got to feel your feelings, dude. You got to feel it.
Mm.
I like to write it out. I like to, my roommate and I, when we were in college, we used to do a pity parties. It's really helpful. Like her name was Lauren, so we would always say like, I'd be like, poor Ramona, she's so tired. She tried so hard in softball today, but they were so mean to her, and she just, like I would just do that, and it would really feel good to do that because you would just feel bad and you would just like let it out, but then you would laugh at yourself because it's funny. So I like the pity parties. You got to have a friend who you can have a pity party with. I like the idea of visualizing a box and talking it out and just putting it in that box. Like it's still there, but I'm gonna put it in a
Yep.
box. And then I also like what Kobe said of like feel it, cry, get it all out, and then move on. Okay, because that's not productive. It's not productive
Right.
anymore. It's not helping you get better. And like that's where I'm at right now. Like I feel bad, I feel stupid, I feel whatever. But you know what? Like I've been trying to like change my life in terms of like losing weight, being more healthy, trying to sleep more, trying to go extra. I walk every night if I can, if my back's feeling okay. I go swim as much as I can. I'm gonna, when I get out of this, I'm never gonna forget what this feels like. And I think that the key to actually like not needing like 7 more back surgeries is how well I keep myself in shape and hold myself accountable to this kind of lifestyle. And so, like, that's what I'm trying to focus on now instead of the, why did I let this happen? It was all my fault. I'm so stupid. I'm so this, And I think like, you got to give yourself a little time to grieve though. Like you have to give yourself that time. Don't judge yourself for it. And if you need to like have some, that's why the pity party, okay? And let it out. I mean, I schedule therapy appointments all the time. I have a therapist that I see all the time on Zoom. I think it's like I hadn't seen her in a couple of months, and right before I was going to do the surgery, I scheduled one with her, and just to like get it out, talk it all through. I'm gonna do another one before I go in there, and I just think
Big
it's like regular
therapy.
maintenance. Yeah, I mean, and it's just like regular maintenance, and I think it is different than talking to your friends because your friends are on your side. They're going to tell you what they think, but like the therapists really, this is what they do. And so, I don't know. I think that's what I would say is just, those are my three things that I try.
A friend of mine, a really good friend of mine named Tyrese, when I was struggling, he would send me this screenshot that says, "You're allowed 5 emotional minutes and then get back up and be a gangster."
Yeah.
And he's like, even if you need 5 minutes, an hour, a half hour, you take the 5 minutes and then you get back up. And I think that there's something really powerful to that. When I was struggling big time when I was around 22, it was to the point where, that's the only thing that kind of pulled me out of it, is that I'm not going to stop the feelings from coming. So let yourself sit in it for a certain amount of time, but then just put it to the side because you can always go back to it and just choose to move on from that moment. You're not moving on from what happened, but you're just moving on from that moment.
Yeah, put it in the box. And actually, I'm a big fan also of like when I was really like, I think my 20s were the hardest in a lot of ways, just because, here I had this like, I was this, student body president. I went to Stanford. I was like feeling myself, right? Like I had a lot of confidence. And then you come out in the real world, and nobody gives a shit. Like they're like, yeah, whatever. That's nice. You went. That's cool. You went to Stanford. Cool. Whatever. Why are you covering high school sports? Like that. And it was like, good question. And I was like bummed and embarrassed and imposter syndrome all going on. But you know what I would always do? I would always make like lists of things I was going to like work on and do and just start working on stuff. Mm-hmm. I would just be like, okay, when I was at Daily News, I would always I would try to freelance as much as possible because one, I needed the money. Okay. I was living at home. I was just like, I had nothing. I mean, you didn't pay very much, and I was still paying my college loans, my car, and everything. But I just figured like all this was good experience, and in a lot of ways, I get better assignments from other papers than my own, right? Mm-hmm. So I would like, one time I drove up to Sacramento to cover the NCAA tournament. I freelanced for like 4 different papers. One time I went down to Irvine and did that. Did another time where I'd always cover games at Pepperdine because I was close by, and so like a lot of teams, I could get those newspapers to pay me to freelance. I was a stringer. That's what they call it. You could pay like $75, $100, something like that. But I was hustling. And I would just make a little extra cash here and there. But a lot of it was like, I would just make calls. I would like make lists all the time of like things I could do to work on and to try to like make whatever I was trying to do better. And I think like you could wallow in it, but if you like give yourself some actionables, some things to work on and do, like, you're doing it. And I always go back to this thing. It was a friend of mine when I was first out of college and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was kind of bouncing around to that first job I had. And then I went to the Daily News afterwards. My friend said to me, she goes, look, you can't steer a boat if it's not moving.
You can't steer a dock
ship. You just got a boat in still water.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. You can't steer a boat if it's not moving, right? Mm-hmm. You got to have some paddles. There's got to be a current. It's got to be moving. So I say, just keep moving, man. Just keep writing down goals. Just keep coming up with things that you can use to like work towards getting you there, even if you don't know where it's going to end up. Like when I look back on my career, all that work that I did at cable access TV, sidelines on high school football, high school volleyball, whatever, like all that stuff came in handy because when I got to ESPN, they were like, have you ever done TV? I was like, yeah, I've done TV. Cable access. Yeah. right? Like it was like I totally had. Yeah, it counts. And it was like when I did a stand-up for the first time at ESPN, I was like, oh my God, I can't even believe I'm doing this. And all I could think about was like I grew up watching Shelly Smith, and Shelly Smith would always be like, with the Lakers and El Segundo, Shelly Smith, ESPN. And I was like, okay, I know how to do that. I can do it just like Shelly did. And I'd be like, with the Lakers and El Segundo, Ramona Shelburne, ESPN. And I was like, said it just like Shelly, right? And I was like, that was so funny. But in typical like imposter syndrome, fashion, I always felt like so ridiculous saying it my own name. And like we were last year, I did this podcast. It was called The Sterling Affairs, and it was a 30 for 30 podcast. We did 5 parts. It was kind of like my creative baby that I'd been working on for years and years. And I remember at the beginning of it, you have to introduce yourself. Hi, my name is Ramona Shelburne, and this is The Sterling Affairs. Do you know how hard it was for me to say my own damn name? Like, my producer was like, what's wrong with you? Like, why are you being weird about saying your name? And I was like, I don't know. It just feels too self-important, or I'm self-conscious or something. And she's like, come on. What are you talking about? Like, you do your own name all the time. And I was like, I don't actually. Other people introduce me. Right. Like, I don't ever say, hi, I'm Ramona Shelburne, right. Like in this like announcer voice, right?
Not in national news, yeah.
No, right? It's like usually the anchor introduces me, So like I would do the podcast, and it was also like just stand in your shine, like this is your podcast. You work hard on this for a year, and this is like your moment to be like stand there with your own 2 feet and be like, this is my podcast. And I said, could you just, and I had 2 producers. One was Julia Henderson, she's amazing, and one was Raina Kelly. She's helps run the Undefeated. She's my friend. So Raina had come out there to help me to do the voice tracks. She would sit with me the whole time as we were tracking. And Raina is a trained actress. Okay, she's amazing, and so she would help me like deliver the line. And I was like, can you just say it? Can you just say, I'm Ramona Shelburne? And she would do it like over and over and over. And I was like, oh, you like saying that, don't you? She's like, yeah, I like being Ramona Shelburne. I was like, okay. So I'm just like, you say it a couple times, I'm going to say it just like you. She's like, no, say it like you. I was like, I don't even know. Okay, all right. So we finally got through it, but now when you go back and listen to episode 1, you're going to be thinking that. Do you know how many times it took me to say my own damn name?
Your name has done very well you've done very well with it. And I thank you so much for sharing your vulnerability and your message of perseverance and hope. And I just think everything that you said, like if you're struggling right now, if you're stuck in persevering through your career or through an injury, please listen to Ramona and use her as a example and a way to help you through it. If you have any further questions out there for all our listeners, or comments for myself or for Ramona, please visit our website, neverloseyourcape.com, and send us a note in the contact us section. And as a reminder, you can see the video of this version of our episode at neverloseyourcape.com. Ramona, we're so thankful for you.